Now, look, I don't want to speak too soon, but maybe, just maybe, the ABC has finally woken up to the damage and harm of woke ideology when it comes to so-called gender-affirming care for children. In fact, it's gone as far as to publish an opinion piece this week asking, does the gender-affirming model provide trans youth the health care they need? There are good reasons to think it doesn't. Author Catherine Llewellyn, a fellow of the Royal Australian and New Zealand College of Psychiatrists, writes, doctors are unable to confidently predict which child will and which will not persist in their gender identity. Detransitioners or those experiencing regret often present several years after interventions are commenced and fail to notify their original treatment provider. Guidelines are not provided regarding how best to support a young person wishing to cease their medications. Who would have thought? Joining me now is Giggle founder Sall Grover. Sall, good to see you again. Thanks for joining me. Has the ABC come to its senses, maybe?
Oh, it's one article, so let's not get too ahead of ourselves yet. But it's a big one, and it is potentially the first time a lot of people are reading about the truth / the other side of this story from a source that they trust. So in that sense, it's a really positive thing. But I think it also really highlights the media's role in all of this, which is censorship, of not making people aware of the dangers of these so-called treatments, the reality of what is really happening, which is a rising case of young people, especially detransitioning from it, and then the complications in society in general that gender-affirming care is causing, whether that is males and female sports, males and female spaces, the long-term health effects. There's a lot of stories here, and so great that they've done one, but we literally need hundreds of them so that the truth can actually get out to the entire population of Australia.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is a shame it's so buried among the mainstream media here. It's like they're really afraid to touch this, what is a very important topic. Now, I want to ask you about an incident in South Australia. A 13-year-old student who transitioned from male to female has smashed school sporting records while taking part in a recent sports day at a Catholic school over there. The student broke long-standing girls' records, and the performance was so dominant it's angered parents and female students, quite rightly. But here's the thing, Sal, the Education Department's policy on participation in school competitive sports says gender diverse children and young people in all types of sports activity should be supported to participate in all sports that align with their gender identity. So, Sal, basically, if you're a biological female, you're out there chasing your sporting dreams, striving for a fair game, the law prevents that.
Well, okay, first of all, let's get one thing straight. No one transitions from male to female.
No.
No transition actually occurs. So these boys who are competing in girls' sports are boys. They might have had some hormones, but it hasn't changed anything meaningful anyway, especially when it comes to sport. The next part of it is that there actually are protections in the law, in the Sex Discrimination Act for sport. They are there. They're just not using them. We have an Australian Human Rights Commission who is obviously interpreting the law in favour of all of these, say, gender diverse, trans, whatever you want to say, people. But there are protections there that all of these different institutions could use. So everyone at every single level, whether it is the Australian Human Rights Commission, politicians, or the lower level sporting or education departments, they're throwing young women and girls under the bus. The third thing to remember is no one is saying that the gender diverse should be banned from sport. They just have to follow the exact same rules as literally everyone else and compete in their sex category. That's it. So when you have an education minister saying we encourage the participation, great, but why don't you encourage the participation of them following the same rules as everyone else so it's fair and safe? Girls should not have to give up their dreams and their opportunities because some boys are having some kind of delusional identity crisis.
No, spot on. It just says that men's feelings are more important than females, and yet you've got young biological girls whose dreams are being completely crushed because there are men competing in their leagues. It's just ridiculous. Now, there's been an intervention by British activist Susan Smith, who successfully brought a UK court case which determined a woman is biologically female, who would have thought, but she has claimed that women are being treated like second-class citizens in Australia. Sal, do you agree?
Well, yes, 100%. We've even just had that sporting example, which proves it. But I can even take an example of myself. So I had an Australian Human Rights Commission complaint almost 4 years ago. I've been dragged to the federal court now for 3-something years, all because I know that men are not women, and I said no to a man who claims to be a woman. The Australian Human Rights Commission has never once considered that I might also have human rights, that myself and all other women in Australia who want female-only spaces should have access to them. We're not saying that every space has to be female-only. We're not saying you can't have unisex spaces. We're not saying you can't have women plus men who claim to be women's spaces. Have them all. The only group that is being denied their rights here in this context are women. So yes, 100%, we're being treated like second-class citizens, and it's coming from the Australian Human Rights Commission, who, upon hearing that judgment in the UK that a woman is biological, instead of coming out going, oh great, we've got some clarity, said, what about the trans? What about them? Can we also think about women? Like, why does every single conversation have to be dominated by the feelings of people who are trying to live a lie? That's literally all it is. No man becomes a woman, no woman becomes a man, no human being is neither. The whole thing is a lie.
Yeah, and yet one of the most difficult questions of our time is, what is a woman? It's extraordinary. Sall Grover, keep up the great fight. Thank you very much for joining me on the show this evening.